Welcome back to Cityline. With me, I have an incredible individual that I had the pleasure of meeting at Glam That Gives, the YWCA auction. And I'm thinking it was probably about 2 years ago now, because the pandemic does funny things to our brains. I'm talking about Carlin Sampson. She is the executive director of Rebuilding Hope Sexual Center for Pierce County. Welcome back, my dear.
Hi, Amanda. Thank you for having me back.
It is so great to see you.
You as well.
So first off, let's just jump in for people who perhaps are not aware of Rebuilding Hope. Would you tell us about its history and its mission?
Absolutely. Rebuilding Hope has actually been exclusively providing community-based sexual assault survivor services, education, and outreach to the Pierce County community for almost 50 years now. We are the longest running standalone community sexual assault program in the state of Washington. And what that means is that our mission exclusively is to provide confidential victim advocacy services and support to survivors and their loved ones, regardless of when sexual or abuse occurred, and to work through collaboration and education to dismantle a lot of these social norms and behaviors that promote sexual violence in our community. And when I talk about us being the only community-based sexual assault program, that also means that we're the only state-accredited program to provide these confidential and specialized services to all of Pierce County, which is something that we're very proud to be able to do.
Wow, and 50 years.
50 years.
That is impressive because just by the name alone, we know that this is not easy work.
It is not.
No, it is not. So how does the mission and Rebuilding Hope's work fit into the community ecosystem?
Absolutely. Great question. One, because we get to be that dedicated support provider to survivors, it's a very specialized form of service because you can consider us as your one-stop shop for true dedicated in your corner, unconditional belief and support for the comprehensive lifelong healing journey for individuals, families, loved ones of people who have been sexually assaulted, abused, who've experienced trafficking or exploitation in any facet. And you don't find that kind of service in really any other of the community's response to sexual violence. You have medical responses that are specific to those injuries or to providing the medical treatment. You have the criminal justice system responses. If you make a report to law enforcement, if the prosecuting attorney's office charges the case, they wrap around in the ways that those systems do, but it's very case specific. And once that case or that trial ends, it's finished. You don't get that lifelong, private, person-centered support for the remainder of your healing journey. And that's what we get to especially provide to the citizens of Pierce County or people who are assaulted or abused in Pierce County that no one else can do. And we really find that offering that unconditional lifetime access to really high standards of confidential support for survivors and their loved ones, that's oftentimes what they need, because you don't know as you continue in your life following a victimization experience when certain other experiences or triggers are going to end up flaring up and impacting your ability to live, form new relationships, trust a community again, or to feel safe again. And that's what we really dedicate our work to try to help that person self-determine how they continue that healing journey for themselves.
So when we talk about that healing journey, which you described so beautifully, what are the current services that Rebuilding Hope provides to make that a lifelong learning, healing opportunity?
Absolutely. Great question. So when I talked about our program starting almost 50 years ago, one of the I would say the cornerstone of our service model anchors on that 24/7 confidential victim advocacy access point, which right now can be achieved through calling our 24-hour hotline. We have a confidential online chat portal through our website that anybody can send a message to and chat with an advocate. We have confidential email options, and those are safe places for when I say anybody, I truly mean anybody can reach out. If you're a direct survivor, if you're the loved one of a survivor, that could be a spouse, sibling, friend, roommate, coworker, you name it. You can reach out. When we talk about confidentiality, it can even be anonymous. You can reach out and say, I don't want to tell you my name or where I'm calling from, but I have questions about A, B, or C. And that's what we're there to answer to. And through that advocacy, we offer the general emotional support, information about all forms of sexual violence, how it's perpetrated, its impacts. We offer legal advocacy that can include accompanying a survivor and or their loved ones through any of the legal steps relevant to a sexual assault case. Medical advocacy, our advocates respond out to emergency departments when patients are admitted to receive a forensic exam, or even if it's just a medical exam related to a sexual assault crime. And that's just kind of the nutshell of advocacy, but that ends up being the main funnel through which people find us, learn about us, and then learn about maybe they have a desire to seek therapy services. So that's another department and program that we offer. Since probably the early 90s, we've offered trauma-focused sexual assault and abuse focused mental health or therapy treatment services, again, to direct survivors and or to their loved ones. So sometimes a survivor wants to see a separate provider privately, but maybe their spouse also wants to seek some support to figure out how to process the trauma that their loved one experienced or to get support themselves. So therapy services are there specifically for survivors 13 and older so that they can confidentially receive those mental health services without having to disclose or get consent from guardians. And again, that service is available for as long as the treatment's needed by the survivor. So there's not a cap on it. We have some clients who pursue treatment approaches that last a few months and some that see our providers for a couple of years. It just depends. And the therapy services are available through some private insurances, crime victims compensation, or we have a very generous sliding scale fee that can start as low as $5 per session, depending on what the individual or family qualifies for. So wow. That talks about therapy and advocacy. Our two other programs since 2015, we've offered wraparound case management for at-risk youth and adults who are confirmed survivors of experiencing commercial sexual exploitation and sex trafficking. And then we offer prevention education and professional community education across Pierce County. Prevention education can be targeted to youths or youth serving environments. It can also be to professional groups, community groups, colleges, the military. And the community education, which is something that I know I'll share about a little bit later, something that we try to provide on a large scale to the whole Pierce County community. And again, that's to work to challenge those norms and beliefs and behaviors community-wide that promote sexual violence.
So I want to piggyback on that because there are and they're out there, the common misconceptions people have about your work or sexual violence in general. What are they, Carlin?
Some of the biggest misconceptions we see is the general minimization of sexual violence, like just its prevalence. How often does it happen? I think that part of the reason many don't know about us is hopefully many have not had to experience sexual violence and the need to seek out services. But we know statistically 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys, an alternative statistic to that is 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before they turn 18 years old. So when you look at just that prevalence rate in general, we need to understand how much more common sexual violence is at the rate that's impacting children before they even turn 18 and become adults in our community. And then when you look at the ripple effect of it's not just those children, it's then their parents, it's their siblings, it's their classmates, it's their current intimate partners or future intimate partners. I think you find that it's hard to come by somebody who can truly say, I've never in any way experienced or been impacted by sexual violence. And when you understand that spectrum includes everything from verbal sexual harassment to rape or sex trafficking, again, I think you're going to be hard pressed to truly come across somebody who's not been directly or indirectly impacted by it. So I think we really work to overcome the minimization that the community sometimes can presuppose on this issue that ends up silencing the issue and making it something that's very hidden and shamed and stigmatized. And then one more misconception, and this is maybe on the lighter end, I think that people assume by the work that we do that coming to our office, working with our providers or receiving services is a terribly sad, depressing experience. And really, we see and witness a lot of joy and healing daily in the work that we do. There's far more smiles and opportunities to see what that post-traumatic growth opportunity looks like with the clients we get to serve. So that's something that we hear very often when people come in and say, it's very bright and cheerful and welcoming and warm here. And I thought it was going to be an oppressive experience. So those are two things that come to mind for me.
I love that. I mean, because if you're looking at lifelong healing,
Right.
And hope is in your name, you need to have an environment that reflects that. And that's what you have just described.
Good.
You have an event coming up in April that I want to talk about in these last few minutes. Can you share about that?
Absolutely. April is a big month for national awareness events, and we're fortunate to share April as also National Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So the organization always tries to host a community open event that's both centered on providing community-wide education and awareness about sexual assault, information about it, information about our services, who do we partner with, what are its impacts on our community, but also for that event to tailor as a form of fundraiser for our services. We are a nonprofit. Lots of people, I hope, are more and more aware of what the resource, sometimes desert, is in communities for nonprofits who are trying to just keep up with the demand of services. So it's an opportunity for people to join us, learn about us, and then provide a small contribution to help support just our daily operations. So on Tuesday, April the 20th, from 4 to 6 p.m., we are hosting a virtual educational program and fundraiser that is centered on a new documentary called Sisters Rising that is all about portraying information about Native American, primarily women and children's experiences in having all forms of interpersonal violence perpetrated against them, most commonly by non-tribal perpetrators. And it's an opportunity to kind of give a full lens exposure to sexual violence, domestic violence, and sex trafficking and child abuse impacts on that specific cultural community that also is relevant to Pierce County, because we share this community with other tribal lands, and community members. So following the film that lasts about 50 minutes, we're going to pivot over to an interactive panel of experts, 2 professionals from the Puyallup Tribe of Indians and 1 woman who is an Indigenous survivor and founder of a statewide victim-centered service providing agency, as well as one of our staff, to take questions from audience members about what does this mean, what's happening here, and how can I step up and help?
How do we get tickets? How do we register?
All the information you need to know is to go to our website, sexualassaultcenter.com. There's a banner on the homepage and an events page that gives all the details about the event, how to register, or how to donate if you can't attend the event itself, and lots of information about how to get involved with our organization as well. So if there's any trouble reaching us, you can call in our 24-hour hotline, our administrative line. We're here to help get our community connected to not only this event, but to us.
I love that. So my last question for you is, if a survivor or someone wishing to support a survivor is watching right now, what would you wish to share with them?
If I was speaking to anybody who's directly experienced and survived sexual assault, and you've always wondered about, am I alone in this? Are there people who can help? I would just really stress, don't hesitate to reach out. As I said, the way we operate, the power is in your hands. You get to be in the driver's seat. You get to decide how much you disclose and share about yourself, and we're here to serve you and to learn and to advocate alongside of you for your own decision and what your next steps are. For somebody who loves and supports a survivor, also don't hesitate to reach out. It's all too often dismissed what that impact is on the loved ones, on the extended community of those who have survived sexual assault and abuse. And you deserve just as much opportunity to receive information, assistance, non-judgmental support, to know what that loved one truly needs from you, but to also get the help that you need.
Beautifully said. You know, one of the things that has just struck my heart sitting here listening to you is how rebuilding hope really does rebuild hope with everybody who is involved with this. Nobody is excluded, nobody is questioned. It is just, if you have experienced any of this trauma in any way, directly or indirectly, we are here to help you. So
Correct.
I cannot thank you enough for the gift that you are to our city, and
Thank
want to
you.
encourage folks to log onto that website and get their tickets soon.
Please do. We would love to have you join us, and we would love to get to know you and learn how to help you.
I love that. Carlin, thank you to you and your team. What you do is a ministry. It is quietly written across your hearts. It's the blood in your veins.
Mm-hmm.
You don't clock out when you go home.
Nope.
You go home and you think about who's calling in next, what's happening.
Always on.
Always on. So
always on.
I thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself with us.
And you're very welcome. Thank you for having us. It's always a joy.
My pleasure, and I'll see you on the 20th.
Yes, ma'am. See you then. Take care.
We have much more to come on Cityline. Don't go away. We'll be right back.